Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to the Brenda Perryman Show, Table Talk with Brenda Perryman, right here today on TV 33 WHPR, Comcast 20 in Detroit, and courtesy of the World Wide Web, www.tv33whpr.com. And boy, do we have a show for you today. But before we start our show, I'd like my co-hosts to introduce themselves to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Ajamu. I'm the owner of the Ajamu Group. We produce the Multicultural Media Luncheon during the Detroit Auto Show.
Happy Friday, everyone. Dr. Rose Moulton, clinical psychologist and speaker.
Good afternoon. I am attorney Tiffany McEvans and also adjunct professor at Thomas M. Cooley Law School.
And as our tradition, we always start with On This Day in African American Life in Detroit. And on this day, Charles C. Diggs Sr. of 584 Frederick Street and later 693 Rowena Street was elected to the Michigan Senate in 1936, only the second black to serve in the legislature's upper chamber. Diggs was also a co-founder of Detroit Memorial Park, a black-owned cemetery, in 1925. And of course, that comes from the book by Ken Coleman. And we are so excited today because we have a lot happening today. We have people watching on the coast because we have a very, very special interview for you today. And this interview was done by Antonio Lamons. And Antonio Lamons is from Highland Park, Michigan. He lives in California right now, and he is called the Passion Czar. He has his master's in psychology, and we're going to talk to him. He's going to call in to us from Los Angeles. But first, we're going to see an interview with Jennifer Lewis, who's the actress who played Tina Turner's mother. She's played on so many things. She's been kind of typecast sometimes as a mom, but she is such a gifted and talented actress, and he's going to talk to her about her passion. Because if you live your passion, you're bound to live a very, very happy life. It may be a little harder at first, but the fact that you're living for what you desire is very, very, very important. So as soon as we're ready, we're going to play the interview, and then we'll get to talk to Antonio Lamons from Los Angeles.
Passions are. Passion is the fuel that drives innovation, creativity, and love. It's essential to our happiness. Sadly, only 20% of people are actually living their passion. Well, I'm passionate about putting an end to that. Welcome to Passion in Action. Today I'm sitting down with triple threat actress, singer, comedian Jennifer Lewis. Come on, let's go inside.
Hey, Antonio. Hi,
How
sweetie.
are you?
How are you?
Good, good.
Come on in this house.
All right. How you doing, Jennifer?
I'm doing great today. It's a
I'm-
beautiful day.
It is. I'm so glad you were able to sit down with me.
It is my pleasure. You need to know that. When
Thank
you
you.
said passion, I'm there.
Thank you so much. So speaking of passion, how did you discover your passion?
Wow. I was 5 years old. I think I knew it even before then, but I sang my first solo in church. And from the reaction of the congregation, I knew what life was in an instant.
Sometimes when people know exactly what to do, they come up against obstacles or believe that not having the right contacts or not having the right money is a reason not to pursue their dream. Did you face any barriers?
Look, I'm bipolar. I've been medicated, I think, now for almost 20 years. And I spent 17 years in therapy. So I went and got myself together. And I did that because I knew there was something better than what I was doing. I knew I could do bigger and better things if I just was calmer. If I just knew how to keep myself together. And you can't when you're bipolar, and it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. So I went and did the work.
Now, you had a career before you got into therapy and all of that.
Yes.
So were you leveraging that bipolar at that time?
Well, here's the thing. When you're on stage, you can hide all that manic behavior. And then you can hide the depression when you get home just by being alone. So nobody really knew. We didn't have a name for it. My family, when I was a kid, was like, oh, Jenny's just crazy. You know, I'm the baby of 7 children. I was running amok and spoiled rotten as it was. But what I found was that I could hide my bipolar disorder in my stage performances, and we didn't know what it was. But I knew it was keeping me from living a good life. And that was all I had to know.
Tell me this, if you weren't living your passion, what would life be like for you?
I don't think I have words to even give imagination to that. I love life. I love being here. It is unimaginable that I would not have found my way. Sometimes I couldn't believe that I actually got up out of bed. And I say that to people today. Just get up. If you just get up from under the covers, it doesn't matter if you're bipolar, depressed, or diabetes, or AIDS, or high blood pressure. It doesn't matter what's going on that might cause you to want to give up. Don't. Wow. I almost didn't make this interview because I was feeling not so myself. But I was like, hey, get up. And then I looked in the mirror and said, oh, pretty thing. You got to do whatever you got to do to get you where you got to get to. And, ain't no shame in my game. I tell everybody, deal with what's right in front of you. It's now or it's not. Why live in the past? Why live in the future? Just stay here right now. You have to confront what it is. Look in the mirror and say, I'm not feeling my best. What's wrong? What's wrong? And then get a journal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Get a journal and write. Not the computer. It's not the same thing.
No.
Let it come from that heart world into the fingers. Get it out. You gotta scream, cry, and holler, and roll on the floor. Then you do that. Look in the mirror. Love what you see, or stand there until you do.
Very well put.
Thank you.
To find out more about what Jennifer's doing and follow her projects, follow her on Twitter at Jennifer Lewis, that's with one N. And on Facebook, where is it, Jennifer?
Jennifer Lewis for real. That means that's the real page.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Give you a song Nina Simone used to sing, and it used to help me get up out of bed when I was depressed. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all of these chains holding me. I wish I could say what I'm longing to say. Say it loud, say it clear, for the whole damn world, the whole damn world to hear, to hear. We need to listen to ourselves and hear. Thank you, sweet pea.
Thanks for joining us today on Passion in Action.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. And now we have Antonio on the phone. Good afternoon or good morning to you, Antonio.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
Fantastic.
That was a wonderful interview, and I'm sure I want you to meet my co-host.
Good morning, I'm Cheryl Ajamu.
Hi, Antonio. I'm Dr. Rose Moulton.
Good morning.
Hi,
I'm
Dr.
Tiffany
Rose.
McEvans.
Hi, how are you? Pleasure to meet you, lady.
Same here.
Now, first and foremost, Antonio, like I said, you're from Highland Park, right?
That's right. I graduated from Highland Park High School in 1981.
Awesome.
And then you've been in, how long have you been in LA?
I've been in LA for 27 years.
Wow, that's a long time. So why don't you just quickly tell us what you've been doing and what led you to this, being the Passion Czar?
Absolutely. I've spent the last 25, 30 years in nonprofit work, working as an administrator, director, executive vice president, etc. Really always wanting to get back to the community. In that process, I decided to go back to graduate school and get my master's in psychology. And while I was seeing clients clinically for about 6, 7 years, what I realized is that really by the time an individual makes the decision, oftentimes, to see a therapist, things are out of control for them. Oftentimes they're in a crisis situation or they feel like they've lost control, and that we become the last resort. So what I found when I was working with clients clinically, their goal was in the work is to really get back to baseline, is to get them back in control of their life, and then they'd be on their way. What I really wanted to work with was people who wanted to soar, people who really wanted to take their lives to the next level. And while I was finding only a very small percentage of the client population that I was seeing was really prepared for that. Mm-hmm. So about 2 years ago, I was in Fort Lauderdale at a training, and I had this epiphany, literally. I woke up in my hotel room, and there was 2 messages. One was, close my clinical practice, which I had just like, what? And the other was to resign my executive vice president position with the nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So both of these things caught me completely off guard and came out of the blue. I was not expecting it. But I said to myself, you know what, sit with it. Just be with it, and by the time you land in L.A., you'll know exactly what to do. So I had 2 more days left at the conference. On the flight back, as I was landing, the resigning the EVP position was not a surprise, because that was something that I was going to be transitioning out of anyway. The closing my clinical practice came as a complete surprise because I loved what I was doing. So I asked myself that question, if this is in line with your top 5 passions and what you love to do, why do you think you got the message to close the clinical practice? And the question that came back to me is, are you playing big enough in this area? And I said, no, not in that role. So when I landed, touchdown in L.A., I was clear I was closing my practice. That was in February. I transitioned all of my clients out by May and got to the business of basically what I did was I redirected my area of focus. So now rather than working with people clinically, I work with people and helping them find their passion and live it. And that's what I do every day now. And part of the Passion in Action videos came to me as a way to show people that no matter what's going on, and the different videos feature different kinds of barriers. The last one, the couple back, was a gentleman who was in his 40s, who actually had been a client I was working with, and he discovered he wanted to open a fitness training facility in Hollywood, and within a year of our work, he's now open and operating and thriving and having an amazing training practice in Hollywood. So I get so much joy from seeing that, and I get the opportunity to live my passion every day that I get to sit down and just slightly inspire someone else to do the same.
Well, do these people find you, or you find them, or how does that work?
A lot of my clients come via word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm still very much connected to the psychological community, and I have a relationship with many therapists, both LCSWs, MFTs, and psychologists. And what we do, which I think is unique, and we'll probably see more and more of this, is we have a complementary relationship. So I have a 2-session process that I do in my work where the client sees me twice, and what I help them do is get crystal clear on what are the top 5 things that matter most to them in their lives, so their top 5 passions, and then they go back to their clinician with that information. It's almost like a psychologist would send a client to, a therapist would send a client to a psychologist for other kinds of tests, or an MD would send a client to a lab for results. And then you use the outcome of my 2-session process to inform the clinical treatment plan that you're using to work with the client. So that's one way, is in that relationship where I work with the clinical community. Also through my speaking, I do a lot of keynote speaking. I just had a wonderful talk this last week, actually, up in Silicon Valley with a group of the developers. And that was a very important talk because all these people are in finance, and someone who's run nonprofit organizations for a very long time, it's very easy to get seduced by the money, by the contracts. And you'll look up and you'll be doing work that is so not in line with your mission, you wouldn't believe it, because you were chasing the dollar. And when you put passion first and profit second, because I'm not about profit, let me be very clear. I'm about making money too. So this isn't about charity work. But when you're clear about what the purpose is of your work, and you stay in line with that, and the important thing is that you plug in your support system or your workforce who are all plugged into that same goal, maximizing their own passion in service to what the mission of that organization is. Now you got magic.
Okay, I'd like to ask Rose. Dr. Rose is a psychologist, clinical
Yes,
psychologist.
clinical psychologist.
Do you have any questions for Antonio?
No, I'm sitting here listening, and I can so relate to him. Antonio, I have a book out called Bloom 7 Steps to Personal Transformation. So over the years, I have shifted my focus from my practice to speaking and helping people transform their lives, because like you, I believe true quality of life comes from individuals who are going to actually tap into their purpose. I oftentimes say people have replaced their purpose with pension. You know, and that goes into what you just said about the dollar signs, the contract, getting the best of folks. And then you wake up 10 years later, 15, 20 years later, and you're unfulfilled. You may have a bank account that looks good, but basically life is about fulfillment. Life is about finding something that's going to encourage you to wake up every morning, that you can tap into and lose yourself in. So I can totally relate to your drive and your desire to kind of shift and focus your life work on this. And I say congratulations to you.
And Cheryl, I remember, you had a situation, remember, before you started your company?
Oh, where I went through a transition?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to work for BET and then Vanguard Media. And in that process I was in ad sales, so, we made quite a bit of money. But during that process, one company went out of business, and I had to go through a transition of deciding what it was that I really wanted to do. And it couldn't really be about money, and that was a very hard choice because a lot of people, condemned me for that. Mm-hmm. And so I can kind of see why, you decided to take that route.
But don't you think, Antonio, that a lot of people are afraid to pursue their passion? Tiffany?
Oh, absolutely. This one of the key things that I speak to all the time is, and the clinical psychologists in the panel will really relate to this, I'm sure. I think of the model of family system. And basically, what we do is we create the support network to support who we are, not who we're trying to become. Mm-hmm. And actually, it is, the system will keep you where you are because everyone has a role to play. And the moment you go trying to change, and this is not malicious or there's no negative intent involved.
Human nature.
It's just the homeostasis gets disrupted. Mm-hmm. And so consequently, people may be in one breath saying, I'm happy for you, but all of their energetic actions, et cetera, will really be counterproductive to where you're trying to go. So what I'm also working on, which will be launching this fall, is the Global Passion Network, which is an online social network that will be a place for you to come, because I've been in this business a very long time, the transformation and self-help business for 25, 30 years now. And what I see consistently is individuals that invest thousands, some tens of thousands, and some even hundreds of thousands, going from one transformational program to the next, all over the world. But they see incremental movement in a real sense of fulfillment in their lives. And I kept begging the question to myself, why is that? Why is that? Because these people are doing phenomenal programs. So it isn't like the content is not good. It's not that they're not quality programs. It's because people return to their lives. They return to the system that's not designed for who they are trying to become. So the Global Passion Network will be a community where you can actually, we're saying, who are you? Tell us who you are. Who are you right now? Who are you trying to become? You don't care who you are. That's what the network will be all about. And not only
so
that,
somewhat non-judgmental.
There will be people that will support you in where you want to go. So,
Antonio.
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental, of course.
Right.
It's like, who are you? Like, who are you? I'm not invested in who you are. I just want to support who you are.
Well, I wanted to say one thing about another co-host of mine, and that's Tiffany on the end. She is a criminal lawyer. Well, she's a lawyer. She does criminal cases and all kinds of cases, but I've known her since she was a young girl. And she always has had this passion to be in charge and to be, no, I think you are living, don't you think you're living your passion, Tiffany?
I do. And it was very difficult for me in the beginning because out of law school, the first thing you do is try to decide what firm you want to go to. And fortunately enough for me, I was able to work for the defender's office in law school where I had the opportunity to work with attorneys and be in court and do everything that they had done. And I met an older attorney and he said, why work harder for someone else than you would for yourself? And it was a very huge decision for me, but I honestly stepped out on faith and, you know, hung my own shingle, and God bless me, 7 years later, I'm still surviving. But it was definitely a huge decision for me because I wanted to work and help people that needed my help. I worked in corporate law, and the money was great. I did very well, but it wasn't fulfilling for me. I kind of got up every morning and was like, oh my God, I have to go to work. But I didn't enjoy it at all.
Antonio, we got, you know, we have to have you back because you're
Absolutely.
you're my LA correspondent now. You know
All
that.
right.
You're my LA correspondent, and
Gladly.
we will be talking, and sometimes I'll have you on the morning show and all of that, and we will be talking about how we could get some things going and happening and living your passion. I think that's something that for a lot of people I know, they've always said, I hate going to work. I hate getting up doing this. I hate getting up doing that. And I taught school 39 years, and a lot of people say, why don't you try and be a counselor? Or why don't you try and be a principal? I only wanted to teach. That was what I wanted to do, and it was all with the other people about the money I could have made being a principal. And you remember me as a teacher. Right?
Absolutely. And what I was going to say, for those of you who don't know who are watching, and I still call her Mrs. Perryman. Mrs. Perryman was my drama teacher in high school. And the teachers that stand out to me, and I think this was a quintessential example of exactly what I'm talking about. Mrs. Perryman just spoke to the fact that she loved teaching. And you're one of a handful, I think there's 3 teachers that stand out in my entire high school career. And I think the difference between the teachers that stand out and those that make less than an impact because the teachers who are there because they're passionate about teaching.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate it being one of your students, and it's such a joy to, I won't say how many years later, but all
But I will say that, no, Antonio just has this way of talking, and ladies, I didn't tell you this. One morning, Antonio called my house like 6:30 in the morning and says, Miss Perryman, Stevie Wonder's coming to the school today. So I just wanted to tell you, you know, I mean, here's a student, you know, and he knew this information. And remember that day, Antonio?
I do.
That was, how did you know anyway?
Well, you know, I kept my ear to the ground.
That's right. Don't reveal your sources.
That was just wonderful. So listen, I will talk to you very soon. And thank
All
you
right.
so much for calling us. And I will talk to you momentarily.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, before I go, I want to definitely tell people how they can find me.
yes.
Go to www.antoniolamans.com. That's www.antoniolamans.com.
And that's Lamons, Lemons.
Like
Yeah.
spelled like lemons.
Reads like lemons, but it's so much more.
All right.
I love it.
And could they look up the Passion Czar too?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
The
you.
segment went longer, but thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Have a great afternoon, ladies.
You
Thank you.
too.
Thank you. And wait, Antonio,
Yes.
what's the weather out
Oh,
there?
don't tease us.
Pardon me?
What is your weather?
Oh, do you really want to know?
Not
No.
Okay, I'll tell you. It is, let's see here, in Southern California, sunny Los Angeles right now. We're looking at a mere 68 degrees.
And it's 10 in the morning. So what do you think it's going to get to today?
It'll probably get up to the 70s today. We're actually starting to finally get winter. It's been in the 80s for
it's
the last
winter.
couple of years. But it's
70.
beautiful and sunny. It's
Okay, all right,
68
enough.
here.
Okay, it's time for you to
Thanks.
go.
See ya. See ya. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Antonio.
Wow, that was really interesting. And that's something that I admire about the 3 of you, that you're all pursuing your passions. Rose said something to me a few weeks ago, and it's been on my mind forever. Yes, I said, sometimes I almost called her about it because I said, what is my hobby or something? And you said, your whole life is a hobby. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, but that's the truth. And I think that goes for all of us because work is play and play is work.
Yeah.
For me, I think for Cheryl,
Yeah.
I know for Tiffany as well, and that's a great feeling when you can live your passion because it's not work. I almost feel ashamed at times to say I'm on my way to work or
I remember the days walking out of school and said, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. It's almost like you felt you were stealing, because you enjoy it so much and you get so much life out of it, don't
and
you?
you make such an impact, as Antonio was saying, in people who watch you because you stand out in his mind as a former teacher, like you said, and maybe just two others. Because when people are connected to what they are meant to do, it's like it's like a religious, spiritual moment to watch people.
I think it's the universe
Yeah.
that kind of lines it up once you make that decision to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the universe lines up everything.
And it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to watch people doing that. They stand out in their work.
Wow. That's interesting because Tiffany walked into my drama class one day a few years ago. She had just won a court case. And what did you tell my students?
I channeled into my drama class because it wasn't what I was saying to my jury, but how I said it. So even my tone and my inflection, and I honestly reached back to my days being there. I did, and I had to call her after I left because I didn't realize it until afterwards. Because a lot of times, even when I was teaching, I taught 8th grade before I went to law school, and sometimes after lunch, the kids would come in and they would be rambunctious, and a lot of teachers would raise their voice and try to get the kids to calm down. But I would stand in front of the room and tell them, we will get started as soon as you guys calm yourselves down. And my tone would lower and lower till they had to be quiet to hear what I was saying. And I learned that from Miss Perryman. And I have channeled that into how I address and speak to my jurors. And it matters. It makes a huge difference.
Wow. So that was an interesting segment. What did you think of Jennifer? We didn't even get a chance to talk about bipolar.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell the audience what bipolar or disorder is?
It's a mood disorder. Bipolar disorder falls under mood disorder. What that means is that a person has this infliction where they alternate between periods of depression and periods of mania. Mania meaning high energy. So the person can have weeks or months or even years of being depressed, low motivation to do things, and then they can have periods that can go weeks and months or kind of hard for years, because that's usually when they kind of fizzle and burn out, of high manic, high energy. And that can include things like overspending, being sexually promiscuous, just poor judgment, poor impulse control, stories of people deciding they're going to paint their house in a neighbor's house overnight, not sleeping for days. So that alternates.
It's funny because a friend of mine just told me 2 days ago that his mother, she had gotten out of the hospital and everything, and all of a sudden she was on a buying binge that was crazy. She ordered like 15 of these jewelry boxes that had the mirror on front from Home Shopping or something, like 15 of those, a bunch of this, that, and the other thing. They had to get some medication. It was something that happened.
Well, she had been released from a psychiatric hospital.
No.
But it's possible it could have been a period of mania, or it's possible some physical medications can cause manic behaviors in people. Steroids can do that at times, can have a person kind of having a high energy.
A lot of times people say, oh, you're just having mood swings.
Well, that's the title of your book, right? No,
that is the title of my book. God, Lord.
Well, it is mood swings is characteristic of bipolar disorder. Mood swings is characteristic of it. Because again, high, lows, impulsive, or someone can say something that we all consider as being benign, but a person just flies off the handle from it. And it is there is a genetic predisposition to bipolar disorder. So typically it runs in families. Doesn't mean you're going to get it if you have a parent or sibling or aunt or what have you that has it, but you're at a higher risk of getting it, which is when you need to implement proper coping strategies and know the signs, so before it becomes full-fledged, you can take care of that.
Well, I appreciate Jennifer Lewis's candor.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
Honestly,
I never knew.
And when she said that when she was younger, they said, oh, she's just crazy. People, we as black people have a tendency to kind of put Uncle John in the room upstairs, you know.
Or
And,
I want to add this too. Or people can find ways, they find outlets that they can channel that depression and anxiety. So her outlet was acting. There are a lot of people who find it with singing. There are a lot of folks who are in the churches that are bipolar, but they can kind of use that church setting as a way to channel a lot of that energy.
but don't worlds collide eventually?
Yeah, you have to be treated. You need to be bipolar and schizophrenia are the two of many, but psychological disorders that honestly you need to be treated, and typically with medication to stabilize it, because it is a brain disorder.
Well,
But
Antonio, I'm
A
sorry.
lot of times the people who are medicated, don't you find that they don't really like to
Nope.
take the medication?
There's a
because
whole
they-
lot of non-compliance.
because it makes them feel kind of lethargic, or they try
Well,
to self-medicate.
Not
or-
just lethargic. You know what a big problem is? I don't feel as artistic.
Ah.
You know, a lot of individuals with
Really?
bipolar disorder, why are you looking like that, Brenda? They are, again, you know, that's why you hear so many actors and actresses now who are coming forward, because that's a great channel to be able to be accepted and have these highs and lows or what have you. Medication, for them, they feel it dulls that edge that they have. And that leads to a lot of non-compliance.
Wow. Well, we have so much more to talk about. I'd like to thank Antonio once again. You know, that
Absolutely.
was just wonderful, wonderful.
Good for him.
I'm glad we've got this relationship going and gives us a little more globalism. And Rose, this next topic you brought up.
Yeah, the next topic is the heightened status that entertainment and sports receive. And last week I posted something online because I was just so over the top with hearing about Justin Bieber and hearing about the incident of the young man with Cass Tech locally. And it just led me to think, like, there's so much emphasis that we put on sports and entertainment, and I would love for once to see that type of emphasis put on kids who are innovators, who have these brilliant minds, these high IQs, who potentially can do things that can change the face of the world. And I talked about how nice it would be to have scouts at high schools looking for these brilliant minds and say,
Wouldn't
"Ooh,
that be fabulous?
Yes, that would be a great reality show.
wouldn't it?"
Yeah,
It
yeah.
would.
Because, you know, we had scouts, having been a high school teacher, we had scouts all the time from the universities coming in to talk to these athletes. But nobody to talk to the scholars.
Yeah, no one. And or even have that support system like some of these individuals that they feel are going to go off and, you know, make it big in sports has. I know for myself personally, when I was in high school, I had to take it upon myself going to the counselor's office looking for scholarships. I was able to get a full ride scholarship, but no one helped me. It was like all the intention it didn't go toward the students who really were doing the academic work and had the potential to go, and we were kind of on our own, you know, seeking out ACT prep classes and things of that sort. So and I believe that's why this country has fallen so far behind other industrialized countries as far as education, as far as innovation and all that stuff. Even the astrophysicist, and some of you guys I'm sure are familiar with him, the Neil, deGrasse Tyson, the black
Yes,
astrophysicist.
yes,
I was reading an article my mother-in-law posted on Facebook last week about how he talked about going to these other countries, and almost like the United States went there almost like they were begging to tap into the technology of some of these countries. And it took him a second, but he became appalled because he said, what happened to us? We were the leaders. It was a time that every plane that was flown in this world was made in the United States, where, you know, all the technology came from us, but we're not valuing the academics like we need to. And the kids see this. So, you know, you ask a kid what they want to be, they want to be football players, basketball players, superstars, rock stars,
Reality stars.
Reality, oh Lord, help us.
It's a whole nother topic.
That's
It's a whole nother topic.
But Tiffany, what do you think about that?
I think she is 100% right. I've had a parent who actually stated that they held their child back, not because of academics, but because they would be a better basketball player, because they would be a little bit older than the kids in their grade. And that was the only reason why they held their child back, so that they could excel as a basketball player on the team the next year. and I was appalled. I was outraged that they had the audacity to
share
repeat
it.
it. Not alone that they actually did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just completely outraged me. And I agree. I want, and I believe personally, teachers should be paid like entertainers
Oh, is
or
that
athletes,
true?
because
Yes.
none of them would be where they are without
Without a
teachers.
teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes
So true.
absolutely no sense to me that we value and put our money and our worth into, entertainment as opposed to education. It's absolutely absurd.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I remember, well, my son was an athlete, and in high school, the phone just rang off the hook. Rang off the hook. Every 5 minutes, it was a coach from a university. And I had my first book out at the time. Do you know that one of the coaches was in town, actually went and saw where my book was, and my picture was on that book, and he called and said, well, Ryan has a good-looking mother.
He did
He
his
had looked
research.
at, yeah, I bought your book.
Was he
years ago."
cute? No.
I don't know. Not that one. No, but that's a horse of a different color. But no, seriously, and I believe the sports and the character of some of the sports stars and entertainers has an impact on our youth. too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not to berate sports or
No.
entertainment, because I love seeing athletes who were destined to do what they're doing
Yeah.
in their zone. I love seeing entertainers, in their zone. I think that's awesome. But I think we need to find some balance. It needs to be some balance here, and don't let these other kids fall by the wayside or feel less valued because they can't dunk a ball or,
Right.
run a touchdown.
What did you? How was it like in Memphis?
The focus was entertainment, sports, more sports, because a lot of Penny Hardaway came from Memphis, so there was like a lot of hoopla around that. Elliot Perry, who played for Phoenix Suns, but what people don't talk about is with Elliot Perry, he collected art when he was a professional athlete, and now he has a traveling exhibit. It's actually at the Charles Wright Museum. But people don't really talk about that. They talk about, because they call them socks, and they talk about his NBA career, but few people talk about his collection of rare artwork that he takes around the country with his wife.
Which
So-
could be his passion.
Yeah, which it is, yeah. And he said that a lot of the players made fun of him because when he would go to different cities, he spent his free time looking for artwork.
Wow.
But what's really devastating is a lot of athletes, because you can't play ball forever, and a lot of them end up bankrupt or without
Yeah.
anything after it's all over, because the educational part of it was never pushed. It was never put to the forefront. And, last week we had Taj on, and I had a lot of respect for her husband, Eddie George. I went to school in Nashville, and one of his big things that he promoted was his education and making sure that he promoted that as well as being a football player. But one of his passions that he put forward whenever he spoke around the Nashville community or was out was education. And I had a lot of respect for him for doing that, because you're in the spotlight. So the things that you can put forth and demonstrate to the kids and adults that are watching you, it matters. And that was one of his goals.
It does matter, and whether you like it or not, along with fame comes responsibility.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you think that they could change to put a more emphasis? Because we'll read about child prodigies and stuff like that, but nothing quite ever as big as the athlete, the entertainer, and especially if it's bad behavior. See, that's something about socks I didn't know about.
Yeah.
But we know about the other proclivities of some of the other athletes, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Too much so.
Yeah, too much so.
Yes.
I think so, but I don't know, what can they do to change it? I mean, who can take that lead, or can we start it small by emphasizing and not using a money thing as okay.
But that's what people are doing. If people are paying for that, the people are chasing the money. If I'm a media company and I see that I can get more dollars showing this sensationalism
Yeah.
of these athletes, I'm going to do that. Or should I do this story about an athlete who, has an Ivy League degree?
Well, all through the years, as I taught, I had so many boys when I asked them, what are you going to do? What is your ambition? oh, I'm going to play for the NBA. I am going to, I said, who told these? I want to play for the NBA, but I always tried to talk to them about other options that they could do because honestly, you know, my son played overseas, so he got his college degree before he started doing all of that. And he's had a lot of, and he's been home for a few years, and he's had a lot of wives of other former players call him to say, how did you get so adjusted? How did you readjust? Because a lot of these young men did basketball or football. They played a few years, maybe not saved their money, and then they have nothing. They're just around the house.
Yeah.
Actually, a good friend of mine did her dissertation on that depression with a former athlete, and she interviewed a lot of these former athletes and just the overwhelming depression they can experience after that because, again, you know, whether it was their passion or not, even if it wasn't, they were drilled into believing that this was who they were. They identified with that. You lose something that you have identified with, then what's left?
That's right.
Because you don't have a backup.
Well, really, what is frightening is my daughter is a basketball coach. She's a basketball coach of my daughter and my son-in-law, of my grandson's team that has first and second graders on it. And some of these parents think that, I mean, the child's in first grade. Stop saying, how much time is he going to get? He needs to, it's like they're already, cultivating that.
And you hear that all the time.
That is a huge problem. And I think I told you before, when I was teaching, I taught 8th grade, and I had to teach summer school. First of all, most of the children in summer school are there because they need to be, not because they choose to be. And every week, I would send home a progress report that I would give credit for, but you had to have it signed by a parent. And at the end of summer school, there was a young man who failed, and I did not hear from his parent until he failed. And the reason wasn't his education or that he had failed, but because he was not going to be able to play basketball, and that I needed to check my grades. And my response was, my grades are in my folder, in my box, and no, I'm not changing them. I was living. No. Why were you not concerned during the school year or after the school year? But now you're going to wait until he fails summer school to say, well, he's not going to be able to play basketball.
I have had coaches and parents ask me to change grades.
Yes. So you ask, where do we start? It has to start in the community, in the home as well, because where's the value going? For years, all of us, can relate to families who said, look how tall he is. He's going to be a basketball star. Look how fast he is, or what have you. But we just have to find some balance. And if you notice these gifts in a kid early, then that's great, because that very well may be that person's destiny. But don't try to pigeonhole kids into something just because you think it's admirable.
And it's just like my son said about his daughter or his son, because my grandkids are tall. He said, well, they'll be the tallest kid in the band. It's like that.
Absolutely.
So let's go into our next segment.
You want to give the number too, Brenda, in case someone wants to
call in? If you want to call in, you could call us at 313-868-0342 or 313-868-0351. I forgot it. It doesn't go across the screen.
Yeah.
And I forgot.
We love to hear others' opinions.
I really would like to hear the opinions of others, because I hear about it after the show or around, or when I see somebody on the street. But last Sunday or Monday, I saw some of the Real Housewives of Atlanta on Bravo. Bravo, I think, has reached. I think the civil rights leaders need to come out against Bravo, because you see things like fights. You see the worst of our race and some of the things that are happening. I know that people enjoy reality shows, and they're cheap for the networks to do.
And they make a lot of money. They make a lot of money off that.
And I have to say, it's not just our race.
That's
We're
right.
in there.
The other race, I guess I'm just so concerned with us. I'm so concerned because there are places that don't even have a black person in their town. And they see, this is what they see, And I thought that last week they were fighting. People prancing around with little negligees like peacocks.
I didn't see
And
it.
she wasn't little. It was Nene Leakes. And she wasn't little. So what do you? I mean, we all have different
Yeah.
opinions.
It's about the rating.
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
the, like Cheryl said,
about the money.
it's the money. And if we don't like it, don't look at it. That's my whole thing.
But we want to look at it.
But
That's
it-
the problem.
and that's
Yeah,
why
you
they
know.
keep it going.
I know.
Because think about it, if we didn't look at it, they wouldn't have ratings.
That's
It'll be
exactly
off the
it.
air, and
It
they go
would.
for something.
But
So
we looking at it in record numbers, breaking records.
I was around some people one day, and I said, "Well, I can't stand that Nene Leakes." Honey, all those women looked at me like they were getting ready to jump on me. I said, "But don't you look? You know, you see how she's kind of this, that, and the other thing." And I think she has money now, and still there's an old saying. Well, I'm not going to say
Don't
the old
do
saying.
it.
Money doesn't buy class.
Don't do
Yeah, yeah.
Money doesn't
As
buy
my
class.
grandmother said, class is not on sale. You can't buy
you
it.
can't buy it. But you know what? She's found her brand, and she's working that brand
It's the sake of a brand. I mean,
for her.
Yeah.
talk to
For
me.
her.
What about the value system? What about the fact that can't we get together without fighting? I mean, and here they had men. They had a pajama party talking about pillow talk, and they had the men in pajamas and the ladies in pajamas or whatever, not pajamas, negligees or whatever. And they were supposed to be clearing the air, and then they. Argument starts. You know, they have people there to stir the pot. This fight starts to the point where the camera people had to come and help break it
Yeah.
up.
And, that's great for ratings, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
mean, it's all about that money.
And
Yeah.
think about it. Us talking about it is great for them as well.
That's right.
I mean, and that goes back to my whole theory about the law of attraction.
There it is.
Whatever we give attention to is going to expand. That's why I was so tired of hearing people talk about the Beyonce incident, the Justin Bieber incident, because that just expands more. The things we
Yes,
claim
it
we
does.
don't want to
Yes,
see,
it does.
we're giving energy to it. So we're just
You're
seeing
making
more
it
of
grow.
But Rose, the reason why I brought it up is I guess I've seen so much negativity because my daughter DVRs it every week. She DVRs that, and then here comes a show called Blood, Sweat, and Heels, and these are supposed to be these so-called educated women, blah blah blah, and they're drinking like fish and arguing, you know.
Or the preacher one. I can't. Preachers of L.A.
Oh,
Is that still on? I don't know.
People love that.
I know, but when you look at it, I was like, wow, is that what they're doing with the church money?
With
You
the
know,
church
because that's the
money.
first thing I thought. But people do like it. People like it. But again, it's drama. It's not a lot of fighting on air, but it's a lot of extravagance, I think.
I think
You know.
there's so many different genres of reality TV on, and people can tune in and plug into whatever they most connect to. I'm a HGTV nut. My kids get tired of me watching renovations and all that stuff all day long. But I love it. You know, for me, and I'll admit, I watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta. I'm not gonna be one of those people that you know. There are people out there like I never watch that stuff. Oh yeah, you do. You know too much is going on. Well,
All the names
I found
and
all that
everything.
out on the social network. Okay, well. But I do, because to me, you know, even as a psychologist looking at that, it's just like wanting to get into the brains of these people and like, you guys are something else. But guess what? A lot of what they're doing is acting. We want to think this
Right.
is not reality
it's
for them.
not.
They are acting.
You know, they set up situations for them and everything. I think they knew with this so-called pillow talk that all this stuff would break out. Now, Tiffany, you like Duck Dynasty.
I love Duck Dynasty.
I've never watched it.
It's so
Me
entertaining
either.
to me. It makes me laugh.
Entertaining.
What is it about?
I get paid to take on other people's stress.
I can
I do.
relate.
And for me, Duck Dynasty just lets me not think. I laugh every time I watch that show, and I need it. I need some type of release. I used to watch Law and Order, but I live Law and Order. Great show, but I cannot take it.
Yeah.
Because I'm always judging or looking at, that's not right. That's not appropriate. Oh, that wouldn't really happen, and it keeps my day going all night long.
It adds some balance.
Oh my goodness. Duck Dynasty, Cy, you are the best ever. I want you to be my uncle. He makes me laugh. He is hilarious to me.
Which one was the one who got all the heat?
I think it was the dad. It was the dad for a comment that he made. But, you know, we all make comments. So the difference is he's on TV, but we all, even sitting here, we've made comments. So
That rub people wrong.
exactly. Me included. I tell my clients the difference between me and you got caught. I didn't get caught, and I realized before I did that I needed to change whatever it was that I was doing. That's the difference. So it's not about, oh my gosh, I have this charge and now my life is over. It's not. It's what you're going to do after this point, after we take care of the situation, because everyone has had something happen in their lives. But Duck Dynasty just makes me laugh. It just.
I was just curious. I was really curious about that because I had just seen a little bit of it one day. I said, I can't watch this.
No, and I felt the same way the first time, but I don't know.
You went back.
I went back and I
After
tried
Martini.
it, and now I'm like, huge
But you know, I think all of us have our own mindless television show.
And that's exactly,
Yes.
my husband will say, I can't believe you watch this stuff. But I say, you don't understand what I have to put in my
Yes.
brain every single day. You know, just some horrendous stories, just sad stories. And to really, and I hate to say it like this, but dumb down and look at something that is not intellectualized.
That my daughter says
love
that
it.
about me and Castle. I watch Castle. I'm the only person I know that watches Castle, and it comes on every day on TNT and Monday nights at 10 o'clock. And it's so mindless. But that's just my folly. I could do things while Castle's on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's nothing I have to pay attention to, and so forth and so on. But yeah, I understand what you mean. It's just I think that they've gone a little over the top.
Yeah. And you know, if you know, people say, well, what are the kids learning? Don't let them watch it. You know, put some parental controls on your TV.
Well, my mother's is the Bride's, what is it?
Bridezilla.
Yeah, Bridezilla, and the one about the dress.
Say yes to the
Yeah,
dress.
she loves that. Say
I
yes
said
to-
yes.
And I don't understand going and having the whole wedding party have to.
Keep your dress.
I know. Come on. Let's quickly talk about Beyonce. We have about 3 minutes. A lot of people got upset with Beyonce's performance the other night at the beginning of the Grammys. Do we have comments? Do we
It
have
was
comments?
something else.
Say that's your
Come on,
comment.
let's be committed.
You know what? No, I am going to be the Beyonce advocate, because if you go to the Dance Theater of Harlem, or if you go to, she had a leotard.
Yes, you
Let's
we
just
know.
be real and realistic about this. It's how you perceive things or how you want to. And you do have the choice to turn the channel or not to watch. So it's how you take something in. And you know, on the other side, because, you know, as attorneys, on the other hand, I did have a friend who said that she was watching it and her son was there, a young child, and he said, Mom, am I supposed to close my eyes? And she said she hadn't thought about it until he made the comment, and she was like, well, maybe. Maybe you should. But at the same time, if it was the Dance Theater of Harlem,
It'll be art.
it would be art.
Because, woo, I went to one of those shows and I got a little hot under the collar.
So it just depends
Yeah,
on,
where's your aesthetic?
it depends on perception, because, you know, Miley Cyrus, and I hate to bring her back up again, she was a lot more exposed.
But she's the least sexy person on the planet.
But were you outraged by that? Because a lot of
wasn't
people
outraged.
came
I
to her
wasn't outraged.
defense.
I cared less.
You know, in my opinion of the whole, I love the performance. I absolutely enjoyed it. I watched it again online. And I saw a lot of feminist groups coming out saying she's put us back 50 years. And I got so upset because, in my opinion, feminism is not about doing what everybody's telling you to do. It's about honoring whatever you want to do. If it's your sexuality, it's your sexuality. If, as a feminist, you don't want to shave your legs, don't shave your legs. As a feminist, if you want to grind on a surfboard, go ahead and do that.
That was the part, you know, that was the part. Because that is basically my 8-year-old grandson's favorite song is Drunken Love. And he doesn't understand what surfboard is, but I mean,
I don't think you understand that either. I'll tell you after the show.
What'd you say?
I'll tell you after the show what it is.
I know what surfboard. We just had different names.
Tell her, Brenda. Look.
Come on now.
Tell her you've been surfing for years.
We just had different names for surfboards. Come on. But a lot of people said that, okay, some people said, well, he was her husband if he had his hand on her butt. That was just,
Well, he does that all the time, though.
yeah.
I told people I go to grocery stores and surfboard on my husband. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm a crash out.
You know, I'm just just not.
I
Let go away.
Tell
Cut to
people,
commercial.
tell people what grocery store you serve for. Tell people where you serve for. Come on. Oh,
Okay, that's turning into a different
This is what you
show.
do at the grocery store.
but you know, we have to
you're
think of
my
some
turn.
responsibility. Golly, Woo, I wasn't
was something
expecting
else.
that. I wasn't expecting that
At all.
But yeah, I
That's
thought,
why she's married.
But we
Oh,
all
okay.
are, aren't we? Okay.
So we have 3 minutes. So
We're back.
we have
We're
3
back.
minutes.
Okay.
Compose
But
ourselves.
you know, some people did complain because their kids were in the room when Beyonce when it came on.
And those were the same people that dropped every F-bomb and everything else during the performance and after. So you have to start at home. If you don't want your child watching that, don't allow your child to watch it.
Oh, I agree.
It's real
I
simple.
agree. As a parent growing up, I said, "Oh, this is on television." Ryan would say, "Mom, that's rated R. We got to get upstairs." You know, I had them psyched, man, for a long time.
Someone just told me the other day, you don't realize how dirty lyrics are to a song until you hear a child sing it. And it's really true, because I recalled a moment. I don't know how old I was, but I remember this like it was yesterday. I knew every word to Madonna's song Like a Virgin. And one day, I was just singing my heart out.
You're like,
And my dad told me, if he ever heard me sing that again, he would slap the taste out of my mouth. And he meant it. And I never sang the words again. And it wasn't until I got older that I understood. I didn't understand what it meant.
Yeah, you just
then.
going by the beat and did
Yeah,
you like
it was
it?
just something I was singing. But it goes back to the home.
But you know, and this again, our culture, we're big on that and all these restrictions, and then we have all these issues with our teenagers and stuff. When I spent as an exchange student a summer over in Spain, in Europe, on television there's nudity. You
Yes.
know, on television there's all types of sexual content that the kids see on a regular
Right.
basis,
Here
and it's
too.
like part of their culture. It doesn't become taboo. And
I
it's,
think we exploit things over here.
We
and
make it
them-
bad.
The media makes
We make it bad.
The media does. A lot of times the media does.
I have to tell you this. So my dad was on the porch. It's the summertime. He's working outside, and my niece was younger than my brother's daughter, and she said, "Papa, I see your nipples." So my dad's like, "Oh my gosh, a nipple!" She said, and my brother's response was, "Dad, if you talked to me more about nipples when I was younger, maybe I wouldn't be so excited now to see them."
I love it.
And we can end on that
Got nipples and such
note. We can
hard
end
and
on
stuff.
that note. Ladies, thank
Look,
you.
poor Cheryl. Cheryl like,
Great Cheryl said, "Oh Lord, oh Lord, heal Cheryl." We will see you all. I'll have the gentleman next
This is a great
week.
show.
And thank you. This was a great show, ladies. Thanks to Antonio Lamont and Jennifer Lewis again. This has been a great show. Thank you to TV33. Join us every Friday at 1 p.m. for Table Talk.
Bye. Have a great weekend.